Hi there, my name is Bryce Erickson, and today I'll be giving a review on the voice catchers by Joseph Turrell. I'll begin my review with a short story about voice capture technology. My dad had retired and he now lives on a sailboat with minimal technology, and he rarely comes back to the US and does not keep in touch very well or stay up to date on new technologies. A few years back, he came to visit my house for the holidays, and I showed him that he could talk to the remote control for the television to find whatever he wanted to watch on TV, and he was blown away. So I subsequently told him that different things around my house were smart and he could talk to them just like the remote control. However, I do not own anything smart in my entire house beyond my phone and my watch. So my dad proceeded to talk to everything in my house. He would say, microwave, warm up my coffee for 30 seconds, or fireplace on, or kitchen sink on. I even heard him in the bathroom and he said, toilet, flush. Now, obviously, none of this worked and he finally caught on, but it was entertaining for me at least. So, on to the actual review. The three things that surprised me most from the book are the length of time that companies, specifically contact centers, have been analyzing, capturing, and using voice prints to segment customers accordingly. Additionally, the amount of information that these companies and educational institutions such as MIT and Carnegie Mellon believe that they can glean from a person's voice. And second, the amount of information that a US company can use and keep for shopping or commercial information without permission, as long as its privacy policy describes, however vaguely, what the firm does. This leads to the complacency of the general public to accept that it is being monitored. And lastly, and perhaps most surprisingly, is that Amazon and Google are not currently selling the data that they are capturing, and that's currently selling. In the back of my mind, I knew that these companies, specifically call centers or contact centers, were using the recorded conversations as they come with that disclaimer that says the call is being recorded for quality and training purposes. And they were using these to not only train their employees, but also to segment them accordingly. I would try to game this when I would call into Comcast, for example, and speak in terse or gruff responses to the automated prompts in the hopes of getting to a live agent or perhaps to receive beneficial treatment. Whether this worked or not, I have no idea. However, I did not recognize until reading this book how long these companies have been using this technology. I had assumed that it started in the 2010s and not when it actually did, beginning in the late 90s and early 2000s, as Nuance Communications and Variant Systems had. I did not understand the depth that these companies were using the voice analysis either, going beyond the segmentation of customers, but also using their tone and rate of speech to authenticate customers, prevent fraud, improve customer security, to perform customer satisfaction analysis, and to assist in their agent training, empathizing with customers, for example, or altering their tone. Additionally, I did not recognize the potential value of capturing voice prints in the many industries that could benefit from this data. The book mentions that leading academic institutions that I mentioned earlier are researching voice prints and attempting to create matching visualizations based on the voice print. It also mentions, however, that it is currently only able to match demographics and ages, but that the actual creation of facial structures is not possible yet. Industries including politics, jails and prisons, education, the hospitality industry, not to mention marketers, and beyond all have extreme interest in this technology to provide personalized messaging based on the user profile that it has captured by triangulating all of these pieces of data that it has available. I believe that voice should be used as just a piece of this triangulation puzzle and not as the main driver. I believe it can be used to confirm assumptions based on other data points, but it seems too easy for me to trick. The book describes how the voice print is as unique as a fingerprint, but I find this hard to believe. There have been impersonators, actors, and accents since spoken language became a thing, And now we even have AI that can replicate and mimic speech, tone, patterns, and accents. I recall recently that a Canadian comedian called into the Alex Jones show using AI to replicate Tucker Carlson. And this had the host fooled into truly believing it was Tucker Carlson until the conversation took a very sideways turn. Therefore, I believe that voice alone is suspect, but it can be huge when used in tandem with other technologies, including biometric data that is currently being captured, such as facial recognition, eye scanning, finger and palm printing, and even heart rates, sleep patterns, and exercise activities. A study cited in the book by Gartner seems to align with my thoughts on this, stating that organizations that combine identity data with behavioral data will outpace those that do not. As companies gain more and more data points, they can weave all of these together to create a truly personalized message. And this leads to my second realization from the book. The amount of data that these companies capture through vaguely described disclaimers in their privacy policy, or intentionally buried within pages of legal jargon. And subsequently, the general public's complacency and acceptance of this surveillance and monitorization. The book describes the surveillance in 4 stages. The spiral of personalization that drives much of the 21st century marketing. In order to remain competitive, marketers must gather as much data as possible about current and prospective customers to send them individualized messages and product offerings. Marketers are therefore constantly in search of the next piece of information, leading to the erosion of anonymity as a value and decline in the freedom of choice. And the second stage, as described in the book, is seductive surveillance, which is described as how companies attract people to their technologies by playing up the device's allure and playing down their creepy features. The third stage is habituation, which explores how companies help people become accustomed to their tracking technologies. And then the fourth stage is resignation, which refers to how the industry works to make sure that despite their worries, people continue to use these technologies because they believe surveillance is unavoidable. Amazon and Google, among others, are capitalizing on the spiral of personalization currently by using seductive surveillance through mass media messaging and habituation, which is leading to the fourth stage of resignation of the general public. The habituation part is the most intriguing for me, as more and more people are becoming accustomed to speaking to everything in their household. Once they have been accustomed to this, it has become so ingrained in their lives that they are resigned to accept it as part of their normal life. Companies like Amazon and Google are playing this game incredibly well from my perspective. Neither company is using this data currently for external or internal marketing purposes, while it increases adoption through habituation and ultimately resignation. I foresee in the near future that both companies will look to monetize this data by selling advertising, as the technology has become so ingrained in people's lives that they are unwilling to let this technology that they have used so frequently go. If the timing is not right, however, and the two companies allow for advertising to permeate during this habituation phase, it could turn people away from the technology if they have not fully yet habituated and or resigned to become complacent. Now, I must have inherited my dad's wariness of being tracked because I disable all the cookies, I turn off my location tracking on my phone, I don't own any smart technologies beyond my phone and my watch, I don't click advertisements, and I've started muting the commercials. Growing up, my dad used to do this, and I couldn't understand why, but now I do the same exact thing. I do not like being sold to, and I do not like companies or entities believing that they know me better than I know myself. They do not. I know what I want to buy, and no amount of influence is going to make me change my decision. So this leads to some consternation about all this data being collected. If the data gets into the hands of bad actors, or if the government gets a hold of it, or insurance companies, or banks, or anybody else making decision using these data points about me that I have resigned to accept and have relatively no influence over. I know it might sound a little tinfoil hat-ish, but is it really that far off? The book gives an example of banks turning down people for loans because their voice intimated that they were at high risk of default. It goes on to highlight politicians targeting people based on their voice and other data points for a personalized message. This to me feels slimy and manipulative, leading to chameleonic practices which foster inherent distrust and lack of honesty and integrity. Now, I do believe that the healthcare industry, both from the practitioner and the client standpoint, is poised to benefit the most from voice print technology. The book details that doctors and researchers are able to diagnose Parkinson's, distinguish between dementia and Alzheimer's, and provide predictive diagnoses based on speech alone. Even as this technology is relatively young and it's being explored and expanded, it can be extremely valuable when combined with additional data points such as sleep patterns, exercise behavior, caloric intake, and heart rates that are actively being monitored via smartwatches and other devices. The practitioner can leverage the data through triangulation to proactively approach clients regarding life-saving diagnoses that the client was unaware that they even had. Transitioning to my employer, I work for Oracle, and we could stand to benefit from this technology discussed in the book by expanding on its customer service, leading to increased sales, product development, and cost reduction. Now, I am on the operations side of a relatively small segment of Oracle's business, and our sales reps do not leverage any of the technology described in the book. Granted, our sales reps are on the outbound side versus the inbound side, like a call center. The only customer information that they have is captured in the CRM, and it's from prior experience with the customer through either their notes or the prior rep's notes. Oracle, and specifically my organization, could benefit greatly from voice capture to identify patterns, personalities, and any potential red flags such as hostility, potential for cancellation, potential for upsell or cross-sell, and make this known to the rep before they even reach out to the customer. The Oracle should also leverage this technology from the start of the customer journey throughout the customer lifecycle. We have a team of business development consultants, or BDCs, that handle inbound calls for potential sales that can develop into leads for our outside sales team. Once the outside sales team is involved and makes the sale, the customer is then under contract for a term of 1 to 5 years. At the end of this term, another organization, our customer success management team, reaches out to the customer in an attempt to extend them for another term. If the company implemented this voice capture technology, it would have a very clear picture of the customer from the very beginning to the end of the relationship and track successes and failures to either build off or improve on. This will also allow for the successful routing of the customer based on their personality, their demographic, their temperament, to a corresponding salesperson that is best suited to handle the exact makeup and personality of that person. All of this will lead to the improved customer success, satisfaction, retention, and cost optimization by minimizing any potential detractors throughout the customer lifecycle. In summary, this is an exciting time as the amount of data that is being captured is huge, but it needs to be used with caution and only as a part of the triangulation puzzle. This has been a review on the voice catchers by Bryce Erickson. Thank you for your time.